All right, so I'm out here changing a wheel stud on this 2003, I think, Toyota Sequoia SR5. Has four-wheel drive and everything on it. I didn't know it had a parking brake set up with shoes. I came back here and changed the brakes, and it looked like a standard disc to me. But apparently, on the inside of this, the parking brake shoes grab. I just don't use parking brakes most of the time, unless I'm pulling a trailer. So when you go to replace the stud, you need to pull this spring and that spring and spread this a little bit and leave it attached at the bottom and rotate the shoes around, and it'll open up a gap here where you can fish the stud in. And it'd be the same anywhere you did it. You just have to rotate it to the section you were going to put a stud in. I fished the stud in from the back. I replaced this stud. You can see it's slightly different. It's seated all the way in there, but it's got a shorter shank than these replacement studs that somebody else did. And this is the factory stud, and the replacements are even different than the factory stud. But they were using these little generic lug nuts and a washer to, and you can see how bad that washer's worn out, just because it's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this with a crimped in heavy duty washer, better lug. This came from O'Reilly's. It's a 12, I think, what is that? 12 by 1.5, and they're about $5 a piece. So to put this stud in, you fish it in the back, get it started out here, put something on here to space it, take your junky little lug nut that has a washer on it, get it started down in there, and pull it up in there. And a buddy of mine reminded me about that. I haven't done a stud in a few years, and that's how I used to do it. But he said, just find you washers or a nut or something to stick over it, and use those old lug nuts to pull it down in there. That's how I used to do it. But it's good to be reminded. But anyway, once you've done that, you have to remember to put the big spring on first. Little spring goes on the outside. Get that centered. This will move just a little bit, so you kind of want to get it centered so it fits into the rotor when you go to put the rotor back on. But while you're down in here, just like when I was changing the brakes and I noticed that the two lug nuts were the wrong ones and the stud was broken, you come in here and you notice things while you're working on your own vehicle. When you start doing your own maintenance on your vehicles, then you start looking at stuff, and you get under here and you look at, like, see the drive shaft over there? You want to kind of find a spot where you can see it, like see that universal joint, and you want to check it for play while you're under here. And then the same thing goes for like bushings. You start check the bushings in different places and see how deteriorated they are, because you get a 30-year-old vehicle, it's going to start to get some deterioration. You can hear there's a little bit of play in that rear end. I probably need to check the gear oil over in the rear diff. But that's the kind of stuff that you notice when you're doing your own maintenance. You start paying attention to the little things. Kind of just keep a mental list, or even write a list down. And when you're changing the front brakes, check the stuff up there. Grease anything that can be greased. This vehicle has almost no greasable fittings, which is just crazy to me. I like, you get something like that truck there, it has a lot of greasable fittings on it because they meant you to be able to maintenance it. Or the other Toyota that I got, it's just, it's beyond me why they don't want you to maintenance anything anymore. But in any case, that's changing a stud, putting all this back together. These springs are really stiff. You can sometimes take a fine bladed flathead and go between these leaves, the coils on the spring, right in here. Get it. You can see where I scuffed it a little bit, getting the blade in there to spread them, to get it on there. This one here is a little easier. Clean all this with brake clean when you're in here. The pads don't look bad. They're not cracked up or anything, so they've been replaced not too long ago. And when you check the rotor, feel it. If you got a big rim right here where on the edge, if you've got a big rim here, then it may need to be either dressed or, you know, a new one put on. But this is a really good, it's got plenty of meat on it. It's in good shape, so I'm gonna put it back on. But anyway, that's changing the rear stud on a 2003 Toyota Sequoia. Y'all have a good day.